ずっとやった人で、その人の本とか思想とかそういう式でよく勉強させてもらってるんですけど、で人間っていうものだったら肉体と肉体を主体に置いたただの一元論的なもんでなくてね、肉体と精神、その精神をもうこうやってよく細かく分析すると精神の二元論的なもんで、その脳の働き、今の科学的なことで脳の働き自体もなんか簡単にね、精神イコール脳だっていうような感じで考えられてるんですけど、シュタイナーとかそういうのね、フランスのベルグソンのあたりも同じようなこと言ってるんですけど、その、精神っていうか部分に分けて言ってるんですけど、その俗にエーテル体っていうのは生命力っていうもんで、アストラル体っていうのは根本的ななんか本質的なものっていうような意味で捉えられてるんですけど、ただ自分たちのやっていくこともですね、それと組み合わせてただ名前がどうだとかね、ただ前田明の団体でそういうもんでなくて、一つの一個の生命がいろんなものを経験していってまた生まれ変わっていってっていうようなリインカーネーション的なね、そういうようなものを踏まえていく。だから何がそういうようなものを経験していくかって言ったら本質、リングスっていうものの目指していこうっていうものを完成されるためにいろんな経験を取り込んでいってさらに成長していってっていう本質をね語るためにアストラルという言葉が一番ね妥当じゃないか。アストラルって言葉自体はね星っていう意味なんですけどね、シュタインの思想のことアストラル体とかでそういうの出てきますんでね、自分はそっちの方が好きなんで。
This was Akira Maeda, both a famous and infamous Japanese pro wrestler, talking about his new shoot wrestling promotion, Fighting Network Rings. He was known for his penchant of doing whatever he wants and getting into trouble for actually turning wrestling bouts into shoot fights, where he sometimes legitimately hurt his opponents in the ring. Even though Maeda was still hugely popular in Japan at the time, he was entering an unfamiliar territory. His new venture was actually painted as the underdog against several new rival promotions that had formed in the aftermath of the notorious implosion of the UWF. But how did we get here? Maeda had been at the forefront of two previous shoot-style promotions in the late 80s and very early 90s, both under the UWF moniker, the original Universal Wrestling Federation and its offspring UWF Newborn. Maeda was originally a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and in 1984, after being involved in a storyline where he formed a promotion within the company that was opposed to New Japan's Americanized style, Maeda decided to make this promotion a reality. So, along with Satoru Sayama, the original Tiger Mask, he created the UWF. The UWF was a success, and shoot-style pro wrestling was created. But Akira and Satoru clashed over the direction of the UWF, with Maeda reportedly resentful of Sayama booking himself to constantly win. The two met a couple of times in the fall of '85, and the blows thrown were not held back. It was their second encounter that was the breaking point, with Maeda kneeing Sayama in the groin. Akira ended up being suspended and eventually fired from the UWF over the incident. Sayama, for his part, ended up quitting after this event as well, and he went off to create Shuto. The UWF would then disband, and Akira Maeda went back to New Japan. This was 1986. Maeda's return to New Japan was mired by controversy, and after several high-profile incidents, he was fired in 1988, and he would reform the UWF under the Newborn name, taking with him several talents from New Japan, along with a new protege, Nobuhiko Takada. In 1989, a man named Shinji Jin had taken over as president of UWF, leaving Maeda free to focus on booking duties and wrestler management. The UWF steadily held events into 1990, but trouble would come when Gene decided he wanted to co-promote with other promotions and different styles. He especially wanted to do shows with traditional pro wrestling company SWS, Super World of Sports, a promotion founded by Akira Tanaka, who also happened to be the head of eyeglasses chain Megane Super Optical, a company which had sponsored the UWF's Tokyo Dome show in 1989. Maeda was obviously pissed, as he viewed every other wrestling style as inferior to his shoot style, and he opposed Gene's attempt at co-promoting with SWS because he didn't want his real fighters appearing alongside fake wrestlers. Akira was suspended by Gene for his public opposition to the deal with SWS, which of course didn't sit well with Maeda. Gene might have been the president of the company, but Maeda had the locker room, and under Maeda's lead, the wrestlers turned their backs on Gene, who in response fired them all and closed the doors of the UWF Reborn in late 1990, cancelling a major scheduled show at year's end to be held at the Tokyo Dome. This incident was the catalyst in the splintering of shoot style in Japan as the stars of the UWF went in separate directions, and the early days of 1991 saw a flurry of action as new promotions were formed. Yoshiaki Fujiwara, proverbial old man, created his own promotion to focus on his style, calling it Pro Wrestling Fujiwara Gumi, and he was joined by several key stars, including Minoru Suzuki and Masakatsu Funaki. Nobuhiko Takada also used this incident to get out from under Maeda's shadow and form his own promotion, the UWFI, Union of Wrestling Forces International. This left Maeda to his own devices, and joined by only Mitsuya Nagai, Maeda would create Rings.
Hello, friends and loved ones around the world, and welcome to our proper first episode of Rings Redux, a series of mini retrospectives dedicated to the Fighting Network Rings, that lovable shoot-style pro wrestling promotion I'm sure you heard of. If you recall, I previously did a video called Rings Redux that was more of a dipping of toes into the ring's water. And that was just a watch and review video. It wasn't a proper retrospective. It was for a Rings event right in the middle of the promotion's life, so to do it right, we're headed back to the beginning of it all, starting off from the very beginnings of the Fighting Network Rings. We'll cover the history, the fighters, and the matchups. And by we, I mean me, the most dangerous man alive today, along with a man who fancies himself a shoot-style connoisseur, Mr. Tom Tanaka. Say hello, Mr. Tom Tanaka.
Hey.
Also, special thanks to Kum Line. Kum provided us with a translation of Akira Maeda's interview at the beginning of this video, and he also made some awesome cartoon fight cards that I'll be using. Go follow him on Twitter. Check the description for a link to his YouTube channel. He draws a lot of wacky cartoons, and he does some crazy videos. So thanks again, Kum. Our journey through the history of Rings begins with the first televised event, which is called Astral-step, Spirit U. Maeda, Akira Maeda that is, was inspired by the elements as detailed in the interview we saw earlier. Spirit U was held on May 11, 1991 at the Yokohama Arena in Yokohama, Japan, in front of an estimated crowd of 11,000. While this was the first proper event for the new Rings promotion, it wasn't the first exposure the Japanese public would have to it. A month earlier, Akira Maeda held a private preview event in Tokyo at the Karakuen Hall for about 2,000 fans and media, where Maeda introduced his new creation to the eager audience. This event featured an intimate interview, then showcased a sparring exhibition between Chris Dolman and Dick Vrij. Maeda himself would later get in on the action, much to the delight of the thousands in attendance. We'll get more into that preview event just a little bit later, but since I brought up the name Chris Dolman, I should talk about him, as Dolman, it turns out, is a figure of monumental importance to Rings. Chris Dolman, famous Dutch judoka and grappling trainer of such men as Bas Rutten, Gilbert Yvel, and the Overeem brothers, met Akira Maeda in the late 70s when Dolman was in Japan cornering his friend, Olympic gold medalist judoka Willem Wuska, who had a notable stint in New Japan Pro Wrestling from 1976 until about 1980, including a famous match against Antonio Inoki. Later on in the 1980s, when UWF Newborn was active, Maeda reached out to Dolman and asked him to come to Japan with some of his locally trained Dutch fighters to participate in a few events, but also have Dolman lend his knowledge while he was visiting, helping develop the skills of his UWF fighters. Dolman stepped into the ring himself a few times during this period and introduced to Japan some future infamous faces, including Gerard Godot. After the stint with the UWF ended, Dolman was back in Amsterdam, but in 1991, Maeda came calling again. When he asked how the UWF was doing, Maeda told Dolman what had happened. The UWF was finished, and no professional outfit, along with very few Japanese workers, wanted anything to do with him. Maeda then told Dolman about Rings, which Maeda had managed to get picked up by Wow Wow, a TV station similar to HBO in the USA. Maeda then asked for Dolman's help. What Maeda really needed was some of Dolman's trained fighters to help fill out the ranks of his new promotion. After some thought, Dolman agreed, and with that, Rings Holland was established, giving Rings its international legitimacy and making sure that Maeda would have fresh men he could grapple. As it turns out, the Dutch involvement basically ensured Maeda could put on the show. Anyway, now that we've cleared that up, let's get into our event. The broadcast opens with Akira Maeda telling us about the inspiration behind Rings and what his new promotion means. Then back to the Yokohama Arena, where we see the fans filling in, and we are met by our commentators who look very smart in their suits and nice haircuts. I was under the assumption Satoru Sayama was doing color commentary, but I think that might only be for the Maeda Vrij match, and even then I didn't notice Sayama being a participant. We are then given a slideshow of our featured bouts, where we see the elemental spirit connection. We'll have a fire bout, a water bout, an earth bout, and a universe bout. And now it's immediately clear how important the Dutch contingent is to Rings in its early days. Every match of this event, except for the last, is made up entirely of Dolman-trained fighters. After the fighters slideshow, we flash back to the special engagement event held a month earlier, where we see Maeda talking about Rings. We get Dolman and Vrij sparring under a completely random playlist of music. For example, Foreigner's Cold as Ice blares over the audio system while the men work. Kind of an odd selection. Dolman actually bleeds in this, and by all appearances the men are really going at it to put on a good impression. Maeda himself, wearing very revealing spandex, then gets in the ring and shows off his snapping kicks against pads under the watchful eye of Dolman and Vrij in the background. Then the villainous foreigners descend on the ring, and the mean-mugging Dolman assumes the role of the pad holder. Before he decides to lose the pads and wants to have a go of it with Maeda. The crowd of 2,000 people eat this up. I would assume that after this, the belief of the Japanese public was that Rings was legit and it was going to be good, which inevitably led to the 11,000 showing up for the first full show. Back to the Yokohama Arena, an announcer greets the crowd. The Ring's groovy Will Smith-inspired hip-hop song plays while our main cast of fighters enter, and then Maeda is out last, and he comes flanked by cute uniformed policemen. And while the crowd mobs him, and he has to fight his way to the ring, Maeda says some words in Japanese, then we are whisked off to the beginning of our event.
プファイヤーバウトを迎えます。ピーター・スミット対ヘルマン・レンティングの一戦、選手入場です。ピーター・スミット選手の入場。赤コーナーのヘルマン・レンティングに代わって青コーナーピーター・スミットの入場。完成への序章、アストラルステップファイヤーバウト、ヘルマン・レンティング対ピーター・スミット。今ピーター・スミットがゆっくりと入場しました。リング上ピーター・スミット。
First bout, which is a fire bout, and sees Peter Smith, 29 years old, taking on Herman Renting, who was 21 years old at the time. Tom, why don't you fill us in on who these two men are?
So I'll go with Airman Renting first. Airman Renting is one of the many Dutch fighters trained by Chris Dolman that we are going to see in rings. Renting is only 21 here. He stands anywhere between 5'9" and 6 feet according to different sources, and weighs in at 216 pounds according to the on-screen graphic. Renting would of course fight for Pride years later at Pride 11 when he took on Akira Soji, losing by armbar in the first round. Peter the Hurricane Smith, 29 here, is a Dutch martial artist who comes from a Kyokushin karate background. 6'2", 242 pounds, he began kickboxing in the early 80s and fought legendary fighters such as future UFC heavyweight champ Maurice Smith and Rob Kaman. He fought him twice, splitting the honors. There's an interesting story to be told about the second Rob Kaman fight which Smith lost. Before the fight, he was allegedly attacked in a Rotterdam nightclub by two guys. The altercation ended in the parking lot where his two assailants fled, trying to run him over with their car. Peter suffered a broken ankle as a result, which would ultimately lead to his retirement. A cast was put on his broken ankle which would prevent any normal man from fighting, but Smith decided he was going to fight anyway, cutting the cast with a saw and stepping into the ring with low kicker extraordinaire Rob Kaman. Kaman would finish him in the 8th round. That's according to the Peter Smith Wikipedia page, which looks like it was written by a huge Peter Smith mark, and I can't find any information whatsoever on that second fight, which doesn't even appear on Kaman's record, but it's a cool story.
Yeah, I think I noticed that too, that was oddly missing out of Kaman's record. Anything else about these men?
Yeah, it keeps going.
Oh, okay, we got more.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when his career ended, Smith fell prey to cocaine addiction and he even had to resort to being a thief so he could support his addiction. He spent 7 months in jail in 2000 and came out a new drug-free man. Sadly, 5 years later, on August 15, 2005, his life would be cut short as Smith was shot dead in the streets of Rotterdam after trying to help out one of his friends who had made a business deal with some shady guys who mugged him and stole his car. He was only 43 years old.
Wow, what a downer. And you know what, Tom? He's also going to be taking us through this match. So, Tom, continue on and take it away.
Renting comes in with some generic 80s sounding music. I don't expect these guys to have great teams, so it probably will be like that all night long. But then Peter Smith comes in with a song that sounds like a mix between Van Halen and Judas Priest. Not bad. The ref gives them instructions which they don't seem to get as Renting kicks Smith right away before the bell rings. They throw some half-assed kicks back and forth after the bell before Renting picks up Smith and brings him to the ground, taking his back momentarily, but gives up on it, rolling Smith onto his back and taking side control, which Peter counters immediately, taking Renting's back and landing a knee to the ribs. He then slowly transitions to a leg lock attempt which doesn't go anywhere. The ref stands them back up. Smith's stance looks pretty weird, just holding his open hands up towards Renting. They exchange a couple more kicks before Smith clinches and takes Renting down with some sort of judo throw. They wrestle each other a little before Renting reverses the position and winds up in Peter's guard. Smith seems to go for an armbar, throwing his leg up, but gives up on it and tries to go for a leg lock instead. They roll around as Renting goes for a leg lock of his own and are stood up by the ref as they reach the ropes. They exchange strikes of questionable power once again until they clinch to go to the ground with Peter on top of Herman as he quickly gives up his back. Smith goes to work for a rear naked choke, but Renting stubbornly refuses to give him his neck, so he switches strategies, spinning around to grab one of Herman's leg, to smoothly turning around to put his back to the mat, but Renting swiftly turns to give up his back again. Smith looks like he has no clue what to do with this position, grabbing one of Renting's arm to do who knows, but Herman gets out of it and winds up on top, where he falls back for a leg lock. Nothing comes from it, and they're stood up again. Renting throws a lot of kicks as Smith is more on the defensive, avoiding strikes and clinching with his opponent, taking him down after a short struggle and winding up inside control. He rolls Herman onto his belly again and throws a knee to the side. Renting replies with an audible shit. Nothing happens, and they're stood up again. The strikes coming ever so slowly from both sides, they wind up in a clinch, and to the ground we go once more, Smith taking side control. Pro wrestling side headlock by Smith, getting countered with the classic head scissors. Renting ends up on top in a front facelock type move and needlessly rolls his opponent towards the ropes, where they scramble for 2 seconds before getting stood up again. Nothing much happens on the feet, and they go to the ground again with Peter in side control, working for a submission, but immediately switches to another position with absolutely zero opposition from Herman, who pretty much just lets him go for the Canadian crab. It looked really bad.
でね、どうしてもレンティング選手、蹴りで攻めていっても、いつの間にかじりじりとコーナーに詰められるというパターンになってますね。
オランダに実際に柴田さんは行かれましてね。はい。
裏アキレス入ります。
入りました。
Renting counters by rolling and going for a leg lock of his own, but Smith still holds on to his legs. In the stalemate once again, the ref stands him up. Herman is still kicking away with Smith, backing him up to a corner where he grabs him and takes him down, where he goes for an Americana in side control. They move around a little bit until Peter takes his back but slips over and goes for what seems to be a triangle. He has now Herman in his guard. Renting works the body while Smith has seemingly given up on his triangle attempt. Renting looks pretty lost on the ground. His work just doesn't look believable. They're stood up again. Renting is throwing some heavier kicks this time around, but Smith checks a couple of them, clinching and taking the fight to the ground. They slowly roll around going for submissions they apparently don't know how to apply until Smith spins out for an armbar, but is blocked by the ropes and the ref separates them. Renting with a nice kicking combo, including a spinning back kick and a solid leg kick.
このサブミッション、いわゆるリングスもサブミッション、そして
Smith stalks him back to the ropes where they clinch. Smith takes him down with something that resembles a small package and gets side control, but nothing comes of it, and they're once more separated and stood up. Herman with a telegraphed axe kick, which is nowhere near landing, but it shows some great flexibility. Smith pushes forward, it takes him down with nothing of note happening. They get to the ropes and are stood up again. Herman is now throwing leg kicks with some force, but Smith checks them and keeps pushing forward to clinch and take him to the ground. He pretends to go for an Americana, but the ref stands them up as Renting's foot was under the rope. Renting stupidly lunges forward for a side headlock, but he is promptly tripped and taken down into the ropes with Smith on top. The ref breaks them up as Smith lays down a little further from the ropes, where the ref instructs Renting to go on top of him. What the fuck? It doesn't matter as they roll to the ropes once again and are stood up. A couple of kicks, clinch, takedown, and repeat. Smith is on top as one of the Japanese commentators mentions that he's a judo champion or something like that.
この辺りでそろそろ持ち味を出したい柔道チャンピオンのピーター・スミット。
To prove him wrong, Smith goes for a terrible-looking slow armbar, which he doesn't commit to at all. He gets reversed, and Herman somehow takes the back and goes for a rear naked choke, but they're too close to the fucking ropes and once again stood up. Renting comes forward with kicks, but Peter grabs him and takes him down. He tries to work for an armbar, but ends up in more of an omoplata position, and Renting taps, mercifully ending this in 15:02.
腕ひしぎの体勢、解けますか？
いや、これはまだ無理ですね。これで逆十字じゃなくて、
逆十
いわゆる十字固め。
十字固めですか？
はい、
ギブアップ。 選手がマットを2回以上叩きますとギブアップのコール。
Yes, yes. This was, I think this is the longest match on this card. My thoughts, the style of rings here is still kind of in development. And I think having two shoot style pro wrestling amateurs have their own little match was probably not a great idea.
It got way better as the night went on. The first fight is the worst, but then it gets way better.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And this, I didn't mention this earlier, but I should now, that there was another match on this card, but it wasn't on the broadcast. No idea why. It was two Japanese men. Their names are eluding me right now. But they went a real short match. It was like 2 or 3 minutes. So anyway, this wasn't that great of a shoot style bout. It was a bit boring. Both men kind of gassed out. Anyway, moving on, both men will be back for the very next Rings event on August 1st of 1991. That one is titled Aqua Heat. Renting will be taking on a debuting Mitsuya Nagai, and Peter Smith will be taking on Willie Wiener Wilhelm. See you boys then.
Willie Peters の入場。ウォーターバウト。アマレスリングのチャンピオンウィリー・ピータースがゆっくりとリングに向かいます。青いレーザー光線を浴びて表情が険しくなりますウィリー・ピータース。刈り上げましたヘアスタイルはまさにストロングスタイル。アマレスリングの U ウィリー・ピータース。強烈な胸を打つビート。轟音に乗って小走りに入場はマルセル・ハールマンス。サンボ帝王ドールマンの秘蔵っ子。
The second match of Spirit U sees Willie Peters taking on Marcel Harmons. Willie Peters was 25 years old and Harmons is of unknown age. Tom, is there any details you can tell us about these two men?
Willie Peters, another one of the Dolman trained fighters and future Pride competitor. You might remember him getting steamrolled by Heath Herring in 48 seconds at Pride 9 with a quick rear naked choke. Oh, I mentioned that I'm just going to say it and you can remove it if you want. He's 25 here, 5'9", 198 pounds. Marcel Harmons from Amsterdam, Netherlands. He is listed at 6'1", 231 pounds. He was born in 1966, so he's about 25 years old here. Not much info on him other than that, but he's most definitely another one of Dolman's trainees. But I couldn't find any proof that he was, but I assume he is.
Yeah, you can safely assume he is.
Yeah.
Probably a very good guess. Thank you very much, Tom. I'm going to be taking us through this fight fans. Willie Peters is out first. He's wearing the most jobber singlet I've ever seen in my life. It's black, neon green, and neon pink trim. It's horrendous. It could only be made better or worse if he had on those thick late 80s workout socks. Marcel is then out, and oh boy, get a load of this motherfucker. He's sporting a blonde curly mullet. He could be the real life Beavis. He's got on long navy blue bicycle trunks. He's a happening dude, it looks like. A glorious specimen of all that is man. Now it's time to talk about the ring announcer. I don't know his name, but his style has a nice rhythm to it, and he sounds great. The translations of the Dutch names is also pretty hilarious.
今ウィリー・ピータースの紹介がありました。1987年から90年まで4年連続レスリングチャンピオンです。
三歩アムステルダムチャンピオンマルセル・ハールマンス。
この金髪の選手はマルセル・ハールマンス。
I'm sure someone out there knows this guy's name. If you do, fill us in with a comment. We'd much appreciate it. As for the match, it starts out, Willie does some kicks, moves in with punches and clinch, fails at an arm drag. Marcel tries to choke. Willie Peters! Exclaims the commentator.
Willie Peters.
Weird moment as Marcel is begging not to be hit. Willie ignores his call for mercy and kicks him right in the face.
Please, have mercy. Oh, not tonight.
The men clinch for a moment, then what the fuck scream from Marcel as Willie with a headlock throw.
ソ連が強いですよね。
はい。柔道技あり。独特のサブミッションがりあった豪快に投げましたのは。
I call it a headlock throw. Probably it has a more exotic name, but I don't know. Our first rope escape of the night as Marcel grabs the ropes. Spinning back kick by Willie is blocked. Very impressive belly to side rolling suplex by Willie. Peters! Willie Peters! Says the commentator.
今度は強引なスープレックス。
強引なスープレックス。ピータース、ウィリー・ピータース。
Like Bond, James Bond. Willie eats the boot of Harmons, literally. Peter is looking like a young go-getter with a jumping spin kick, then a nice back roundhouse. On the mat, Harmon forces a rope break at the 5-minute mark. Willie lays into Harmons. They grapple on the ground for a little. Harmon digs into the body in the corner. An awkward falling belly to belly by Willie, and he forces Harmons to go for the ropes again. 2 escapes now for Harmons. On the feet, Willie groans loudly as he tries for an over-the-shoulder hip toss.
両方ともどんどん技を出しますんでね。これは
That's my name for it. What is the cool Japanese sounding name for this move? No fucking clue. Commentator with many Willie Peters.
ウィリー・ピータース。ウォーターバウト。マルセル・ハールマンス、ウィリー・ピータースの一戦、こちらも同門同士。
It seems like he likes saying his name. I'm not sure what the story being told in this match is, if any. Willie is getting off all the offensive attacking. Harmons is just absorbing it all. Funny moment when the ref breaks them apart, and before Harmons is ready, Willie slugs him.
あれだけで効くんじゃないですかね。
何回もやると非常に
Great stuff. The crowd loved it. That really helps sell the shoot feeling. Harmon's kicking in bunches now. The noises Willie makes throughout this match are awesome. He again groans very loudly as he tries a twirling belly to belly on Harmons, and that gets the crowd to cheer.
ですね、彼は。
ほら
インです。そしてボディに一発。
The effort and feeling in that suplex again is really selling this as a real fight, even though it's not. On the mat, 10 minutes have passed. They roll for a bit. Rope break by Harmons after a rear naked choke attempt by Peters. Back on the feet, Harmons looks cooked, and Peters then puts him down with a right head kick. And fight fans, Harmons isn't getting back up, and Willie Peters is thus victorious at 10:51.
ハイキック。あっと後頭部に決まった。ハイキックが決まった。ダウンカウントが入ります。カウントが入ります。さあどうだ。アルマンス立てるか。カウンターのハイキック一発。強烈ウィリー・ピータースの勝利。
After the match, Harmon sells a Japanese princess in a purple dress is in the ring, very cute. Willie Peters gets his plaque. Harmons gets his loser medal. and then we're off to the next bout. Tom, do you have any thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I have a few notes about this match. Peters looks like the third less successful Steiner brother with his singlet.
Yes.
And Harmons looks like a total jobber with his Mae Young haircut. I also have the right head kick that finished the fight was really stiff. I don't know if Harmons sold it like a champ or if he really had his bell rung.
Yeah, it was a good kick, and I thought Peters' performance in this match was really good. Harmons, I think he if this would have been maybe somebody else instead of Peters, it probably would have been a worse match.
Yeah, I thought it was better than the first fight, and it was also shorter, which is a good thing.
Yes, yeah, I think if they're gonna be successful on these, they need to keep them concise. And more like sometimes a real fight. A real fight unpredictably could end, 4 minutes in, it doesn't need to always go 10 minutes. I know maybe they're trying to give the crowd their money's worth, but at some point they got to realize they can't let these drag on for 15, 20 minutes. Anyway, what will happen with our two rings combatants here? We'll see Willie back at the third rings event, Kamui, in September of 1991, where he'll be going up against Cops. Burt Cops, Jr., that is. Marcel won't be back in rings for about a year. He will return in April of 1992 at Mega Battle 3. He'll be taking on Dick Vrij there. We'll see you boys then.
And nobody in the United States of pro wrestling wants to fight Mr. Casimir. Nobody.
7色のレーザー光線に乗りましてビル・カズマイヤーの入場。赤コーナーはビル・カズマイヤー、パワーリフティング怪力世界一、ワールドストロンゲストマン、今リング上です。それにしましても腕が太いですね。強烈な力を持ちますビル・カズマイヤー。代わって青コーナークリス・ドールマンの入場。これは鉢巻きをしています。クリス・ドールマン、1番と書かれました。日の丸をあしらった鉢巻き、赤いガウン、オランダ軍団の総帥。
The next bout of Spirit U sees the happy face killer Chris Dolman, legendary Dutch trainer, taking on former world's strongest man and likely at this time still one of the strongest men in the world, Bill Casimir. Dolman was 46 years old for this one and Casimir was 37. Tom, any additional details you have on our two men here?
Bill Casimir had a short and not so memorable stint in WCW right around that time in '91, but still managed to work with some of the biggest names in the business like Abdullah the Butcher, Cactus Jack, Kevin Nash, and Rick Steiner. Chris Dolman, Maeda's partner in crime, is 46, 6'1", 256 pounds. He trained all of the Dutch wrestlers on the card tonight and also trained great fighters like Bas Rutten, Alistair Overeem, and Gegard Mousasi. He is an expert in karate, judo, and sambo, so a pretty well-rounded guy that can fight both standing and on the ground.
Tom is also going to be taking us through Dolman versus Casimir. So, Tom, take us through it.
Chris Dolman's theme song sounds familiar, but I can't put my finger on it. The bell rings to start round 1. I guess this fight is under special rules because earlier matches didn't have rounds. The fight starts with the guys exchanging kicks until Dolman closes the distance on Casimir, trapping him in the corner and grabbing him in the tie clinch to throw some knees, but Casimir uses his strength to push him forward into the ropes and into the corner where the ref separates them. The crowd applauds. They seem to be enjoying the show so far.
かなりこのために研究したそうです。はい。さあドールマン。この膝蹴りは強烈です。体重があります。
しかしそれを体格で跳ね返すという東先生の方も相当な。
Dolman throwing some leg kicks once again, closing the distance to clinch with Casimir, who just pushes him away. Casimir is throwing some strikes of his own, but doesn't seem really comfortable with striking, so he grabs Dolman, who judo throws him to the ground after a short struggle. Casimir reverses the position, immediately ending up grabbing one of Dolman's leg. He spins out to get to a more dominant position, and Dolman gives up his back. Casimir tries to grab onto a choke, but the round ends. Round 2. Dolman opens the round kicking again, working the left leg of his opponent. He throws 2 front kicks that miss. Casimir kicks him back. They exchange some more kicks before they clinch, but Casimir breaks out of it almost immediately by just pushing Dolman away. Bill then lands 2 hard palm strikes to the chest and another one to the gut, bringing him to a knee.
はい、チャンスリングスの働き試合で持てたというのも非常にカズマイ選手にとっては意味があることだと思います。こ
の大会のチームすごいですね。これはダウンを取られました。
The ref counts him, but he's quickly back up at 4. They are kicking again until Dolman catches one of Casimir's kicks, putting him down on the ground, regaining control of the leg, and is now going for a leg lock, with Casimir grabbing one of his own before they both roll into the ropes where they will be stood up. Casimir is fighting a little bit like a sumo here, pushing forward with palm strikes to the chest and body of Dolman. Dolman with some leg kicks, but Casimir grabs one of them and trips Dolman down. Dolman turns to his belly with Casimir on top of him, threatening for a choke, but once again the bell rings to end the round.
力だけでしっかりですね。
強烈ですね。おっとこれはゴング。これはゴングに救われましたね。
はい、時間です。
彼がもう少しテクニックしたらもうこれで決まっちゃうんじゃないかと思うんですよね。
はい。なかなか離れません。
聞こえなかったんですかね。
ゴングが聞こえなかったです。
はい。
Round 3. Dolman kicks again and Bill is still using his sumo palm strikes. Casimir kicks, but Dolman grabs it and takes him down near the ropes. Dolman is on Casimir's back and works to turn him over onto his back where he attempts an armbar, but can't finish it and the ref stands them up. Casimir with some big body punches coming forward and trapping Dolman into a corner where the ref steps in between them to break up the action for reasons unknown. I guess as soon as you touch the ropes, you get restarted in the middle, but I think they're still figuring it out since it's only the first show. Casimir pushes forward again with body shots, putting Dolman's back against the ropes, but no break this time as they grapple back into the middle of the ring by themselves. Dolman goes for a judo throw again, but Casimir counters him by grabbing one of his legs and slamming him down with a side suplex sidewalk slam hybrid.
ボディへのパンチ強烈なものがあります。ビル・カズマイヤー。おっとこれはかなり効きますね。表情が歪みます。クリス・ドールマン。足を取ります。スープレックスの体勢。おっとそのまま抱え落としました。
With this huge man on top of him, Dolman quickly goes for a rope escape and back up they go. Couple deep breaths here from both competitors. They end up clinching with Casimir against the ropes, eating a barrage of knees from Dolman, who then grabs him in the front face lock, but the Bill takes him down with a single leg. Nothing much happened from there, and they are stood up as the bell rings to signify the end of round 3. Casimir is not as shite as I expected him to be. He's not so bad for such a big guy with no actual fighting background. He was trained by Vern Gagne and Brad Rangens, who were great amateur wrestlers, so he probably learned a lot from them. Round 4. Casimir with a solid palm strike to the face, but Dolman clinches and tries to throw Bill down by one of his arms, which fails miserably as Casimir just falls on top of him and takes his back, threatening with the choke again, but Dolman is so powerful as he manages to effortlessly fend off his opponent, who just happens to be one of the strongest men in the world. It's not like Bill can just rip his head off from this position. Another rope escape and we're back up. They clinch and Dolman takes Casimir down, landing on top of him in full mount. Dolman switches to side control and spins out for a leg lock. They both grab each other's leg and the ref breaks them up. Dolman grabs Casimir and hits him with some knees to the body until Bill takes him down with a low single leg. Dolman head scissors him over to his back, where he quickly grabs onto an armbar but is unable to break Casimir's grip. They touch the ropes and are broken up. Standing, they clinch again with Dolman going for some more knees to the body, but Bill pushes through with a double leg takedown. They end up in the ropes as the bell rings to end round 4. Round 5 is underway. They throw some kicks and they clinch with Dolman managing to take the big man down again. Dolman then goes from side control to the back immediately, switching to an armbar. Casimir fights it off again, stacking up Dolman and goes to lift him up to get out of there, but Dolman rolls through with the armbar, this time breaking the grip of Casimir and making him tap at 1:10 of the 5th round.
この力、パワーリフティング世界一のその力、このまま上がるか。ドールマンの116キロが浮いた。外れた。いやまたロックしました。さあドールマンもここは正念場。チャンスですね。はい、ドールマン今足使って外しました。さあ外した。これは決まりました。腕ひしぎ決まった。ドールマンが勝った。ギブアップ。
This was actually an enjoyable match, much better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool match as well. I think they did the rounds that way because Bill Casimir was gonna. The guy
he needed a break.
Yeah, right. There's no way he could go 10 straight minutes. His gas tank was probably was very poor. Yeah, overall, I thought it was a good match. I thought the crowd seemed to like it enough, though. It was kind of wearing thin by the 5th round there, so they probably should have ended it, I think, a round earlier, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, if it ended in the 4th round, it would have been perfect.
Yeah. Dolman, he's going to be back at the very next Rings event, Aqua Heat, where he will take on Ton von Murick. As for Bill Casimir, he won't be back. After this, in the summer of 1991, he would join WCW. Tom covered that, and he would actually be featured in a main event storyline where he competed for the WCW World Championship. He would also tag with Rick Steiner. I have a hilarious promo that Bill Casimir did at the beginning of a WCW event, the one where he tags with Rick Steiner after Scott Steiner apparently had his arm mangled by another tag team. I'm going to include it right here.
I'm Bill Casimir, the world's strongest man. Nobody likes what you hardliners did to Scotty Steiner's arm. He tore it up really bad. This sledgehammer takes a great deal of power. Lower to the face. It's a 10-pound sledgehammer, held straight out. He tore up his arm. This arm is 22 inches around. I don't think you can tear this one up. Try it.
Bill Casimir, he could have possibly been a big star, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't meant to be, and his run in the WCW was short-lived. He then would appear in New Japan Pro Wrestling for several matches, and that would do it for Bill Casimir. Adios, Bill!
Mijn kicks zijn veel harder. En ik weet, dat is mijn specialiteit ook. En ik denk dat ik veel harder schop dan hem. Technisch is hij misschien iets beter dan me. Maar qua hardheid en qua kracht ben ik denk ik veel sterker.
そうですね、キックってもまだそんなねパワーでやってるキックなんでね、だからなんというかいろんな投げだとか横の動きだとか後ろの動き前の動き出た時にどういう風になるかっていう分でね、まだちょっとつけ込むスキルいろいろあるんで、その辺はまだ大丈夫だと思います。
さあディック・フライ選手の入場。188センチ115キロ、5月2日生まれですので26歳になったばかり。天を意味しますユニバースバウト。今新しい格闘技を目指して前田明、その初戦。前田神話、新しい前田神話が生まれるか。横浜アリーナに今鼓動が生まれます。横浜アリーナ、光の渦の中、今前田が姿を見せました。表情はあくまでも穏やか。アストラルステップ、完成への序章。前田が浸水するドイツの哲学者ルドルフ・シュタイナーの人知学の中にある言葉、肉体を超越した魂の次元を意味します。
It's time for the main event. Akira Maeda, 32 years old at the time, taking on Dick Vrij, who was 26 years old. Is there any details you can fill in on these two men?
Yeah, Dick Vrij is 6'1", 253. He is a former bodybuilder and bouncer. He debuted for the UWF in 1989 after training under Chris Dolman. His first UWF fight was a losing effort against Old Man Fujiwara. Maeda is listed at 6'3", 253 pounds. He is 32 at that time. He enters and it's like the Beatles. Everyone is trying to get in on some of that Maeda action, ganging up on him so bad that he has a hard time getting to the ring.
Yes. This is the Japanese version of Rocky IV. It seems like Dick is in great shape. He looks like the perfect foreign villain as he enters. Maeda comes out to a cheesy theme that is not as cheesy as his UWF or New Japan Pro Wrestling themes, but it's still pretty cheesy. In case you were unaware, fight fans, Akira Maeda is the one and only reason 11,000 fans came out to see this event.
This is a testimony to how much of a draw Maeda was, because he's really the only reason why these 11,000 people are there.
Fight fans, I'm going to be taking us through this fight. Maeda, he's looking a little soft. He gets a good rise from the crowd during the stare down with Vrij.
どうですか。いつもの通りの無表情と言いますか、十分おっと睨み合いですね。
両者の睨み合い。前田明、ディック・フライ。この辺り。
The crowd, whom may have been doubtful about whether the previous bouts were shoots or not, are definitely of the belief that this one is going to be legit because of Akira's reputation. The match starts with lots of kicks. Huge Maeda chant breaks out.
その熱い視線が前田に向かいました。さあキック軸目のハイキック。この辺りのキックは強烈ですね。
そうですね。ランダに取材に行った時ですね、周囲の人にフライ選手どういう人かと聞いたらみんなクレイジーって言うんですよね。一言聞いた人10人が10人クレイジーって言ってましたからね。
恐るべきビッグフライ、前田コールが起こりました。
The men collide and fall. Maeda on top. Maeda tries for an armbar. Vrij is out of it, and they are up. Vrij wags his finger. to say that ain't gonna work. He begins slapping Maeda, then makes the mistake of trying to grapple with Maeda, who does a falling double arm suplex. They roll on the mat. Maeda is on his back, and Vrij goes for a rope escape. Back on the feet, they exchange kicks. Vrij slaps Maeda at the 5-minute mark. They clinch, and Maeda rips off some hard shots, and down goes Vrij. Vrij sells, not getting up to his feet until the count of 9. Vrij chops Maeda down with a kick. They both try for a leg lock. The ref decides to stand him up. Maeda misses with a kick. Vrij goes for his own back to the mat, which eventually leads to a rope escape by Vrij. Maeda pulls off a good, unassisted belly-to-belly slam, which the crowd loves. Vrij with a kick from the bottom, and Maeda is hurt from it, so Vrij pounces, kicking and kneeing, and down goes Maeda. He gets up at the count of 9.
でも前田の場合はどんな体勢でもスープレックスということが考えられるんで、
そうですね。いやでもまた今
さあこのキック、ドラマティックだ。
効いてますね。
ふらついた前田、膝蹴り、ダウンだダウン、前田がダウン。
今ハカなんか取りませんでした。
Vrij goes after him, now acting cocky. He knees Maeda in the corner, and Maeda crumples again, and it's counted as a down. At this point now, the story being told is that Maeda can't keep up with the young Vrij, and the sense in the crowd is that they are going to have to watch their hero fall. Maeda gets up, though, tries a flying kick. Vrij pushes him out of the ring. He then attacks the ring post, and Vrij signals the crowd as they begin to chant for Maeda. Great storytelling is happening right now. Gotta say, that top-notch work from Maeda and Vrij here. Vrij goes for a high kick. Maeda catches it and tosses Vrij over, and Maeda grabs his ankle, but Vrij has another rope break. It's actually counted as a down, though? I don't know. I'm kind of confused. It was scored as a down instead of a rope escape. 10 minutes down now in the match. Vrij very confident with his hands down. There's a very erotic, intense stare down in the corner by the two men as the ref tries to separate them. Jumping body kick by Vrij, then more kicks, but Maeda catches the high kick attempt, drags Vrij down, the crowd goes nuts, Maeda positions himself for a half Boston Crab, the most feared of all shoot-style submissions, and Vrij is tapping out. Akira Maeda is thus the heroic victor at 11:05 of our bout here.
ちゃいけないんですよ。
足を取った前田、足を取った。さあこれはアキレス腱か。どうだ。
裏アキレス。
裏アキレス。完全に入っている。入っている。
逆肩エビです。
ギブアップ。前田勝った。前田勝った。
逆肩エビ型に入りましたね。
この歓声をお聞きください。
Tom, what did you think of this match?
That was a great match. I think Dick Vrij was the perfect foreign villain. He really played with the crowd really well.
Yes, yeah, it was awesome storytelling. I was reading some of what Dave Meltzer wrote at the time, and he said that this was one of Akira Maeda's best matches in recent memory. And I gotta agree. This was a good effort from Maeda, although you could kind of look at him and say, he doesn't really care anymore. He's let himself go a little bit. He might end up, he will eventually become lazy, but his heart was definitely in it for this one. It was a good match. Anyway, moving on. Vrij is helped to his feet. He still wants some of Maeda, though, as he's held back. Maeda is awarded his Badass of the Decade plaque. Then him and Vrij shake hands. They raise each other's hands. Vrij gets his participation medal, and then Maeda heads off to the back, getting many pats on the back in his body from the crowd. After this fight, fans, the men would both return for the next Rings event. In fact, they will have a rematch with each other. That's at Aqua Heat on August 1st of 1991. The commentators then go out to close out the show, and we get a nice replay of the action from Maeda and Vrij under the playing of Pink Floyd's Dogs of War.
Discovery is to be disowned. Our currency is flesh and bone.
Nice touch. Then Maeda gives a closing interview, and the show is over. Tom, your overall thoughts on our first Rings event here?
I like the way the card was built. It's like it got better as it went on. First match was the worst, second one was decent, third fight was good, and the main event was great. I think it really delivered, and I'm looking forward to see what's next for Rings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of room for growth, although it was still a good show. But yeah, definitely looking forward to what they put together for the next one. I have some closing thoughts here and some details on just what was going on in the world of shoot style. This, the first show of Rings, was no argument the most successful of the three new shoot style promotions in terms of numbers. Pro Wrestling Fujiwara Gumi had its inaugural show about a month prior and would be holding its second show 5 days after this first ring event at the Karakuen Hall in Tokyo. PWFG had a stacked roster with Minoru Suzuki, Masakazu Funaki, Ken Shamrock, Bart Valley, Takahashi, Yusuke Fuke, among others. The Karakuen Hall tops out at about 2,300 fans, but I believe neither of the PWFG shows would sell out. That I cannot confirm, though. The UWF, meanwhile, Takada's brand, had also went with the Karakuen Hall for its first show. In fact, was held just one day before Ring's first event. It's reported that all 2,300 tickets for the UWFI show sold out in only 15 minutes. The show featured just 3 matches, though, including a shoot style tag match, which was new to the world of shoot style. Takada had a pretty awful match with Tom Burton at the show. In fact, it was so bad, Takada had to apologize to the crowd afterwards, saying that his opponent just didn't understand the style. As for Maeda, seemingly pulling the cart all by himself, he decided to go for broke and went after the big arena, the Yokohama Arena. As a result, of course, 11,000 fans showed up to see the man whom the public at large believed was the only legit shoot-fighting pro wrestler in Japan. Despite maybe being the underdog at the beginning of the shoot-style wars, Maeda looks to have pulled it out, and has come out on top. Well, fight fans, that's going to do it for our pilot episode of Rings Redux here. Similar to Maeda fixing some issues with the first Rings event for the second one, we'll also be doing the same as we figure out how exactly we're going to go about this show. But let us know in the comments on what you think we could improve on, what you might change, and I'll definitely take them to heart. See what we can do for the next one. Though I'm definitely looking forward to the next one, and we'll see where we can go from here. Tom, any final thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I just hope I wasn't too bad.
No, I thought Tom was fine. Let Tom know what you thought, stuff he could improve. Let me know what stuff you think I might be able to improve on. We look forward to that. So anyway, we must close the show now. So for Tom Tanaka, I am the most dangerous man alive today. Wishing you goodbye, good luck, and we'll sniff you jerks later.